I thought you were just joking around there for a second, Chase.
No. It's the second. So here's the difference between this and a Google Hangout for any of those watching that would like to care to remember this. The second you go live, you're live.
Okay. All right, well, let's get it down. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks to all the 60-plus people that are watching us right now in the first minute and a half. I know we have more people who will join us, but hope your week has been good. Welcome to the Hump Day Happy Hour. Co-host, producer Chase Thompson there, buddy. How's it going in San Antonio?
It's going extremely well.
Good. And below, we've got Jason Bible getting up here in his house, trying to walk his business partner, Tom Perry, through on getting on. So we'll get to those guys in a second. Give you a little background. I was actually just out in Houston. Oh, there's Jason.
There he is.
Is Tom going to be able to join us, Jason, or no?
We're working on it.
Brutal.
Well, anyway, we're live. Say hi to everybody, Jason.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Yeah. Jason's the half of the was one half of the Houston House Buyers team there. It's doing an amazing job in Houston, along with being co-host of the Right Path Real Estate Radio Show, taking place from 9 to 10 a.m. on Business Radio 1110 KTEK. Is that correct?
Correct. KTEK 1110 a.m.
1110 a.m. And so big round of applause, big applause, definitely applause, applause for you making it and getting half of it here.
You know what? We need the applause for the radio show. We don't have that.
Say what was that again, Jason?
We need that for the radio show.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I got the applause meter here. I meant to bring that along this morning when I was on the show. So Jason and Tom were kind of had me on the radio this morning in Houston as I was out there for a Houston Real Estate Happy Hour with Curtis Warden and Clay Calhoun. And you guys are just doing an amazing job there in Houston. You are a house buying machine, not so much a webinar and blab machine, which is fine. Tom will join us at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to text back and forth. He's on the phone. His computer in his office doesn't have a webcam, so he's using mine.
Well, you can also download the app if he has an Android or an iPhone.
Oh,
and it will work literally the same.
No kidding.
Yeah, that might be easier for him to do.
Yeah, it's BLAB.
It's blab.im. So
yeah, pretty easy, breezy.
Yeah. So it's obviously we've had got a lot of. I want to thank everybody that responded positively the last few weeks online, social media. Drop me an email. Really enjoying the hangouts we've had. Obviously, this is I think our fourth one. We had George Antone and Aaron Young, and then we had AC Ramos 2 weeks ago. And so really big, great. Jason, you guys are our fourth guest. This marks the 1 month calendar.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, definitely. You guys have been doing your radio show about 5 weeks now, too?
Yeah, we're on the 5th week. We started February 15th, so a little over 5 weeks now.
Cool. Well, while we're here waiting on time, why don't you tell everybody that's joining us for the first time a little about yourself and what you're doing and your kind of path to HHB.
Yeah, so I started real estate investing back in 2010, I think, 2009, 2010, something like that. It all kind of blurs together at this point. But well, actually, it was 2012 because my youngest son was born on the day that we moved in our first set of tenants. So we had bought two houses, and then it's our second kid. Once you kind of get the second kid, it's like your mom, kid was born. Next day, the in-laws are there. So, hey, can I go do something else other than sit in the hospital for the next 2 days? So, oh yeah. So I'm like, I got some tenants to go move in. So I ran off and moved the tenants in. So our 4-year-old is the one that kind of marks that watermark, if you will. So my wife and I, the first year we were in business, bought 4 houses, 2 rentals, 2 flip properties. And then at that point, we were having problems buying houses, to be quite honest with you. As you guys know, particularly here in Texas, after 2011, it was on. There were hedge funds down here. It was crazy. I'm looking, I was putting in like anywhere between 5 and 15 offers a week on stuff on MLS, going and looking at houses, sending offers, and getting nothing. And so we got together in a mastermind group, and it was single family mastermind folks. And so we all got together and started kind of going through, what would take to get our business to the next level. And that's where we came up with the idea with Houston House Buyers. And it's not a We Buy Ugly Houses brand. Really what it's designed to do is, I'll give you the big picture. You probably have to have a couple of drinks in for this really to sink in. But so we looked at how used cars were sold 30 and 40 years ago. You put an ad in the classifieds, a bunch of freaks would show up at your house. They, lowball you until you finally sell this old car that you want to get rid of. Well, fast forward to today, you've got CarMax and Texas Direct Auto. You just roll your car up and, hey, give me a price on a car, and yeah, you can take it. So what ended up happening is we looked at house buying the same way. I think realtors are kind of an outdated model. This idea that you put a house on the market, you have all these weirdos show up and they traipse through your house and then you finally sell it. It's just in long term, it's just not going to work. I mean, don't get me wrong, certain groups of people are still going to use it because they want the full service stuff. But the reality is that if you look at the margins on a CarMax or Texas Direct Auto, they're very similar to what we do in houses. So the idea is that most houses or most cars are most families' second largest asset. So why wouldn't they treat the largest asset like they would their second largest asset? So the idea is that we want to revolutionize buying and selling houses, where we just go in and right now we work mostly with the problem child houses, right? The ugly houses, but that's where we think the industry is going. We think it's going to go to house buying companies like a CarMax or Texas Direct Auto, where you're like, hey, I'm getting transferred. Come buy this stupid house. I think that's where we're going. So that was the idea of Houston House Buyers.
Yeah. Well, obviously with the financing actually going more online too, hey, get a loan online, get that taken care of. That's obviously the biggest thing that drags house buying out or house flipping out is the financing side. If you're cash buying or moving stuff, it can really expedite that for the most part.
Well, and the other thing we thought is once this thing gets really rip roaring going, we could be just like any other car dealership, any other car. They offer financing, right? There's a financing office right there. So that's what's got me interested in the notes and the things that you guys are doing is that, that's just the next evolution, right? I could almost see where we have like little stores around Houston. Like we've got the Cypress store and the Katy store. And it's like, let's get in the van and let's go look at houses that we own. Because that's the biggest frustration with people, right? On the sales side, they'll go there, there's 50 offers and there's not a prayer they're going to get this house. Well, why don't you get in this van and we'll just go to these houses and y'all pick whichever one you want and buy it. And oh, by the way, here's our folks that do financing, and just get it all done in the same place. That was really kind of the idea behind Houston House Buyers, was that's where we think the industry is going. So in any case, that's how we started. So we started July 2013. We bought 7 houses in 2013. We hired our first employee in 2014, and we bought 67 houses that year. And then 2015, last year, we bought, I can't remember, it was 90 or 93, something like that. So this year we'll buy somewhere between 120 and 150. So we're growing at a pretty quick pace. And now the discussion is, do we go to another market or we keep growing, that sort of thing.
So what attracted you to real estate? What were you doing before you got into real estate back in 2010 or 11?
I was the risk manager at the University of Texas, and I had at the medical center here in Houston. And I got an MBA in finance. And when I had gotten into the MBA program, I thought, hold on a second, we're having. So when I got into the MBA program when I finally graduated, I went out and interviewed at a number of boutique hedge funds and I interviewed for a whole bunch of finance folks. Well, I graduated in 2009. So reality is that everyone was so scared. You guys remember all that stuff. Lehman imploded. It's like, how old was Lehman Brothers? 100 and something years old. It was just, everyone was freaking out. They thought the world was ending. So the likelihood of me making that career change was about zero. So in any case, and then I decided, I want to learn how to do real estate, single family real estate. And how do you do that? So I joined a RIA here in Houston, and then just started learning how do you do it kind of as a mom and pop investor. So, and then from there, that's kind of how we started.
Cool, man. And Tom's. You want to talk about Tom's background, since he's not here to talk about himself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that who you're messaging right now?
Yeah, I'm like, you need to go to your Google Calendar and click on. He's like, I'm logged on to Twitter. I'm like, no. You need to go to your Google Calendar, click on the link I sent you, and then.
So you're saying he's not a millennial.
He does drive a Prius, though.
He does drive a Prius. He does not do the social media and everything else for us. I can hear. Although our social media, to be quite honest, is pretty crappy, but he's not doing any of that.
He might be. That's the point.
Oh, he's on Blab.
Oh.
Okay.
Is he on ours though? Not just the website.
Did you click the link? Did you click the link in your Google account?
Live phone calls on Blab. That's so great.
Hey guys, you never know what's going to happen.
We got to
know what's going to happen on the happy hours because it's just like the regular happy hour.
You should have gotten started like an hour ago.
Hey Chad, yo, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you, man.
Give me 2 seconds.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this is so.
So
it's
can you
great.
see us? Okay, go down to the bottom. It says call in.
Oh, this is good. You know it's being recorded, right? For posterity's sake.
Oh, so you can hear us. I bet you're on the wrong link.
Oh, yeah. So, while we wait for Tom, is there?
Good times. Good times.
Yeah, the reason you see the open seats is because you're clicking on the wrong link. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get the link.
Can you do business with this man?
I was waiting for somebody to say that.
Luckily, Tom is a much better entrepreneur, and he also runs has a roofing company too, doesn't he? For the big thing.
Yeah, he used to. All right, I just sent you the link to your Houston House Fires in your email. Just open it up and click on that.
There you go.
Oh, good times. Like trying. No, we're at this far. Take this left to come over and see us.
Yeah.
You know, Chad's got a great idea. Why don't we just fax him the link?
All right,
and then
so
he can just.
I don't know what the deal is. When he clicks on that link, all it says is open seat.
Is he on?
You're on Chrome
or Firefox?
Yeah, he is. He's in Chrome.
Looks like he might not be able to join us. It says
we'll catch him another time.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Keep listening.
Sorry.
So Tom used to run a roofing company. He was a part of your mastermind group.
Mastermind group. It wasn't just a roofing company; it was a general contractor. So, yeah, I'll give you the short story of it. There was this little piece of legislation that got passed called Obamacare, and he was running a health insurance agency at the time, and essentially was out of business in like a matter of months. And so, in any case, he was looking for something to do. Had a buddy in his church that ran a handyman business. The guy was a great handyman, wasn't so great at the business side of it. So, long story short, he kind of reverse engineered from a business standpoint how to run a handyman business. This guy ended up doing some things he probably shouldn't have, and ended up, I think, spending some time in jail. So he inherited.
Not Tom.
Not Tom.
Not Tom.
No, the other guy. Well, there's a lot of pronouns being thrown around.
Quick.
I wanted to make sure.
Long story short, he inherits a crew of a couple of guys, and so he realized that if you've ever done like retail remodeling where you're doing it and somebody's living in the house, it's a total nightmare, right? So you figure out like that's not really the business you want to be in. So he figured out that at the end of the day, the most steady kind of industry, if you will, for construction is real estate investors, because we don't care what time of year it is. We're always rehabbing, right? So he got hooked up in the same RIA I was, and just started as a vendor there, and grew from, one crew to 3 to 7. I think they had at one point 9 or 12 crews. I mean, it was a full operation. They were Home Depot's second largest account in Houston. The number one account was a gentleman who owns 6,800 multifamily doors in Houston. So, I mean, he bought a little bit more paint and blinds and all that other stuff. So in any case, that's what he did. And then he was a part of this mastermind group, and we sat down and we started talking about Houston house buyers, put together a pro forma and a business plan. Which, by the way, for those of y'all who are listening, if your business plan is more than a page, it's too complicated. I mean, this doesn't have to be really, really complicated, right? So it was, here's the business plan, here's the value proposition, our strategies, those sorts of things. And then here's our pro forma. This is what we think we need to do to, make a little bit of money. And so it's worked out really well. So that's our one company. Last year, we started another company called sellusyourhouse.com. So one of the things we saw on the investor market is there are a lot of deals out there that don't get closed because they've got, title issues, missing heirs, breaks in the chain of title, all that sort of stuff, like a lot of lien. You see crazy stuff when you do that. I mean, you guys know, right? So we started this second company. It's really a buy referral company, if you will. Hey, I can't close a deal because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, well, come see us and we'll get it closed. Now, we don't close it for like a fee. Essentially, we just pay them like a finder's fee, like a wholesale fee if we close it. But that company's really starting to take off. We've got 37 under contract right now. We're able to clear up and close somewhere between 2 and 4 a week. So it's really interesting. But yeah, between the two companies, we've got 13 people in our office. We've got an acquisitions team and a sales team, and we have a transaction team, and some admin folks and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a full, all in 2.5 years. So it's really just a rip roaring little enterprise.
So what made you choose real estate for your finance job as a risk manager at the University of Texas Medical Center there in Houston? What was because a lot of people, we get a lot of people here that are brand new or looking to do things, and they see, holy crap, you've gone from zero, where you were at zero, to where you're at today. What was that shift in your mindset for you? Just like, listen, literally, because you were married, and today is your anniversary, am I correct too?
Yeah, today is the anniversary day. We've got date night had to get scheduled a little bit later since we were doing this. So
hey, you would have been in traffic anyway. You would have been in traffic in Houston anyway.
You know what I was going to do before we got started? I was going to scream down the stairs like, "Give me a beer," and see how well that went. It
did very well.
So but I'll tell you, I've always wanted to own my own business, and one of the things that's nice about real estate is it's self-collateralizing. Like, it's so easy to raise money for real estate. I mean, try opening a restaurant. I mean, that's a nightmare, right? I did my business plan when I was in business school. We were talking about starting a brewery, but in Texas, we have this really weird thing where we have that 3-tier system. You have to sell to a distributor who then sells to a liquor store who then sell. Like, you can't sell direct, right? So we came up with a novel way of getting around that. But of course, laws have changed in the last 6 or 7 years, so a lot of that stuff's a little bit easier. But we were looking at even just a little, nothing brewery. We were talking about, startup costs in the first 90 days, almost $1 million. I mean, we were $4 or $5 million in the project before we even sold our first drop of beer, and it's like that. To get somebody to sell them on that vision is not easy, right? Yeah.
Isn't there's actually a bourbon or a whiskey company called Rebecca Creek that literally they started a vodka company called Enchanted Rock to fund their whiskey company, which was already going to cost a ton of money, which is what you're talking about, but even more so because you have to age it. And so they wanted a whiskey company and literally had to start a vodka company. You could just make vodka. So they started a vodka company with the sole purpose of funding the time it was going to take before they could actually.
I know Rebecca Creek. They sponsor a couple of radio shows we listen to. Yeah, so
totally.
And
they're
actually,
great.
I got some downstairs. So I didn't know that story. That's fantastic.
Great tour in San Antonio, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Rebecca Creek. I mean, would you, instead of calling that crowdfunding, would you call that bottle funding?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Bottle funding for sure. No. They fund like all kinds of real estate stuff.
Every 6 months I go visit my brother in Seattle, and it's just like, because we're beer guys. Although I'm drinking the Banquet right here, but we're beer guys. So he'll take me to a bunch of breweries that weren't there 6 months ago. It's amazing to just pop up in your neighborhood, right? I mean, down the street. Oh yeah, Joe opened a brewery in this old warehouse. It was just okay, great. So in any case, so why I want to get into real estate, for at least my first business, was that asset self-collateralizing, right? This house sold for $100,000. This house sold for $100,000. The house in the middle is the one I'm buying. You go to a banker, you go, what's it worth? And they go, well, it's worth 100,000 if it wasn't a big piece of junk. And you're like, yeah, I'm just going to fix it up. So it's a super easy business to raise debt or equity financing for. So, and that's half the game. I mean, half the game is figuring out what your business is going to be, and the other half is figuring out where you're going to get all the money from. So that was pretty easy. So that's essentially why we did that as our first business.
Yeah, but you're still not answering the question.
Oh, okay.
You're still not answering the question. What was, because you're sitting there, you already told me this, but it's a great story about what, yes, it's you raise collateral, but there was a mental shift. There had to be something in your head, like literally, I'm doing this, I'm at this job that I either like or dislike. What was the thing that went through your head to change, leaving a job and a salary to becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Oh, this is that thing I've been telling people lately. So when people talk about like freedom and being free, what they don't realize is that part of freedom is getting to choose who you work with. Like even if you're making the same money, at least you don't have to deal with like Susie Q 3 cubes down. That's an absolute nightmare that you're working with on some capital project, right? I mean, you get to choose who you work with. You get to fire people. I mean, we fired lenders. We fired people who bought houses from. I mean, we're going to deal with the people we like to deal with. And I don't think folks realize what a huge value that is, because your stress is like regular stress. Like, do we have enough cash flow? It's like, that's kind of like business stuff, right? But outside of that, there's really not a lot of like interpersonal conflict. Like, I've got to go to this job that sucks because the people there are terrible. I mean, you just don't get that, right? And if there are people that aren't pulling their weight, it's just like, hey, you need to go somewhere else. So in any case, that was a huge for me, was just having that freedom to be able to pick who you're going to work with.
You said something to me, is like, literally, I could work at this job and I'm going to hit a specific thing. I could always come back to working this job.
Yeah, so I was 35, I think, when I left. So for me, the risk for me is like, okay, I could do this for 5 years, and then I can go back to my job. Problem was, I couldn't get promoted anymore. I mean, I'm still a young punk compared to a lot of those guys. So I kind of hit a glass ceiling just based on age. Of course, no one will talk about that. It's like hush hush in the big corporate world. But they're not going to let some, 35-year-old guy run half the country for, and I had worked at a couple other different places, and I actually been told this at one point. They're like, yeah, you'd be great for this, but you're just too young. And I'm like, too young? I mean, so I got to sit here and fog a mirror for another 5 years for you guys to take me serious? This is ridiculous. So I thought, well, what's the risk? I could go out and lose some money. I mean, I already had a great career. I was getting recruited. Like a lot of people, you work hard at your job, you're going to get recruited. There's going to be opportunities for you elsewhere. So I left my job, and I'll tell you what's crazy. I left my job, and about a year and a half, 2 years later, I had 2 recruiters call me for director and vice president level positions. It was crazy, and the business was just starting to take off. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I was like, well, let's just keep doing this, because those jobs will still be there, right? I mean, there'll always be an opportunity somewhere. So if you're kind of in that middle management realm like I was, and you're worried about like, how do I leave this good job? Well, you could be leaving something good to do something great, right? I think it's a Tony Robbins thing. A lot of people keep holding on to something good when they could be on to something great, right? And so that was for me. I'm like, well, let's just try this thing. And so my wife, when we came up with a business plan, I came home to my wife, and I don't know why I didn't think this, but my wife comes from a family of entrepreneurs. So she's totally accustomed to this lifestyle. And so I'm sitting down one day, and I said, hey, here's the business plan. And I said, what do you think? And she said, if you don't do it, you're going to regret it. And one of my lessons from 2013 was it was 2014. Rejection is better than regret.
Oh, that's awesome. I love
Always.
That is awesome. Quote.
Rejection is better than regret. So when you start looking at what you've done in your life, and I know Gary Vaynerchuk has said this a couple of times, you regret the things you didn't do. I mean, it's universally, it's always, right? So when people talk about coming from a place of fear, like my biggest fear is I'm on my deathbed, whatever that is, and I'm like, I should have done this. I should have done that, and instead I was too chicken and I didn't want to do it. So, I mean, that you just got to go do it. And so, like you and I have talked about this thing, it's action. You got to get to, we're doing it, right? What we were talking about the radio show. Like, if you guys go to the radio show website, it sucks. It is absolutely horrific. We've been doing the radio show for 5 weeks. You think I'd sit down and, hire some web guy to fix? I just don't care. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we got this radio show. We're just going to do it. But part of it is I'm trying to teach people a lesson that when you get into real estate, your website, I have to have this perfect website. And I have to have this perfect piece of marketing. And I have to have this no, you don't. You need to get off your ass and you need to get to work. And it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a total mess. I mean, how many times did you guys change logos and do website redesign like in the first 18 months?
Zero.
Yeah, and just put it up there. Just go. I mean, just do it. So for us, we're kind of playing that game right now with the radio show. It's like, are we going to turn this into a real estate education thing? Sure. When are we going to do that? I don't know. We just decided to put on a class in April. So we're going to put on a class in April. What's the class going to be about? I don't know. Here's an agenda. If you guys want to come, great. If not, it doesn't matter to me. So it's just going out there and doing it. Now, as you do it, you're going to get better at it, right? You kind of throw some stuff up on the wall that you think will work and you go, ooh, that didn't work out real well. But this over here did. So let's do more of that and kind of fix our processes on the way. But yeah, Tom is fond of saying that running a business like ours is a lot like, running a train and fixing it while it's moving. and he's right? Like, there's all these squeaks and sounds and the engine didn't run right. So you run into there fixing that and you get down on the wheels and sticking oil in them. I mean, and that's the reality. I mean, you're just not going to have this smooth running business unless you're one of these punk kids who goes out and raises, 150 million on a first round, angel round, but that's a totally different, the rest of the world. This is how it really works. It's not what you see on Twitter and all the startup nonsense out there. People are just throwing money around. And we have a friend of ours. So my wife works for a really small company, and we were talking about, it's an online tech company. And so we were talking about, I think it was LinkedIn that was in the news, and they had something like 15,000 employees or 5,000. It was some ridiculous number. I'm like, what do those people do all day? And her boss and everybody else were on one of these conference calls. The whole company's like 5 people. When she came on board, they had 450,000 users. They have 6 million now. And so they're sitting around and they're like, what do those people do all day? Who knows? But it's where they get venture capital, private equity. In their case, they went public, right? So they have all this money flowing in. What do you do? Let's just hire a bunch of people. And that's not probably doesn't work. So anyways, back to, I guess, my point. In the real world, you're going to start this business. You're going to be undercapitalized. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be all hands on deck. We actually had somebody leave us this week. So it's like, what's Jason doing? Jason's doing transaction management. So I put my transaction coordinator hat on and making sure docs are getting done and private money lenders are getting what they need. Title company gets, and that's just part of the deal, until you get big enough. So, but yeah, I wouldn't wait to start something. Just go do it.
Just go do it. So there's always two sides of the hat. Either how do you find assets and how do you fund them for the most part, which is one thing. So why don't you just give a little snapshot of what you guys are doing marketing to drive in leads to you guys right now? I'm sure a lot of people out there all across the country and the world are interested in saying, how are you getting people to call you to have them sell you their house?
Well, we started out with postcards. So you'll hear a lot of these, now that I'm doing this kind of full time and we're doing it at this level of volume, it's so funny because you can see real estate educators. We kind of talked a little about this today on the radio show when we were on, like who's completely full of crap and who knows what they're talking about. And it's so funny because you get these guys so, oh my gosh, you have to send out yellow letters. I'm like, you know what? Yellow letters cost twice as much as postcards, and the response rate is twice as much. But you know what? We find that at the end of the day, when the math all works out, you end up buying just as many with postcards as you do yellow letters. It's just the expense. So at the end of the day, it just all balances out. So for us, we'd rather just postcard them to death until they're ready to sell a house to us.
So how many postcards do you drop in a week or a month over there?
Right now, that's a good question. How many am I sending out? I just know dollar volume. is about $12,000 a month, just on direct mail stuff, and then another. It's pretty. Our whole marketing budget's close to $50,000, so it's kind of a mixed bag of stuff. Like we got taxi cabs, we've got billboard campaigns we're doing, which in a market size of Houston is stupid expensive. We've got.
With taxi cab stuff, are you able to do like Uber stuff as well? Do you guys have a pretty good Uber
We
footprint?
do, but we're putting them on the back of yellow cabs. Like.
They're replacing,
no, I understand that. I'm just
Palace
saying,
Men's Club
perhaps,
with Houston House Buyers.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Right. But what I'm saying, the proliferation of something like an Uber, would you be able to say cut a guy a deal to like put some of your stuff maybe in the the back folder of the seat or something? I don't know. I just mean if you're already
one of
the
biggest. There's a guy out of Phoenix, Arizona, and I haven't met him, but I heard his case study at a mastermind I'm a part of. He pays people to put decals on the back of their truck or car windows with a specific number that goes into it, and that's how he buys his homes. He's got 300 plus cars driving around with his information on the back window.
Cool. Yeah, and then they just get paid on any of the deals they bring in.
Yep. They get it, they get it. They're able to track it because there's all a specific number and the links that come from that and stuff like that. But there's a million ways to attract buyers. It's just the biggest thing when you say that number of postcards is you do it every week or every month. It's something that you have perfected. You know that system now. Bam, bam, bam. It's automated, it's running. And so many entrepreneurs that are doing marketing, they do one thing and they do it half-assed. They never finish it. And they go do another thing and do it half-assed, never finish it. And they mess around with their LinkedIn profile. I call it the case of unfinished bridges.
Mm-hmm. We call it schizophrenic marketing.
That too. That'll work as well. Yeah.
We'll do this, and they're like, that doesn't work. And we'll do that doesn't work, and that doesn't work. And what a lot of people don't understand, and I'll tell you what, I've coached a lot. Like a buddy of mine just bought a Homevestors franchise, and I told him, I said, this is what it's going to take. I don't give a damn if it's Homevestors. I don't care if it's not. I mean, it's going to take 3 to 6 months of marketing for that deal to pop. And here's why. Some deals you buy in less than 30 days, right? Like you go out and you go to an appointment and you might buy it that week. But the vast majority of your deals are going to come from follow-up. And most of these people, a house is pretty important. So they're not going to make 99% are not going to make this split decision. Okay, I'm going to sell it. Some do, don't get me wrong. We do that all the time. But when you're first starting out, it's really that 3 to 6 months. So when you start a new marketing campaign, it's 3 to 6 months doing that marketing campaign until you get a deal. Our first deal in Houston House Buyers, we actually started July 4th. That was my first day in Houston House Buyers. And we were spending $5,000 a month in marketing. It was $20,000 before we got our first deal. And Tom and I put $20,000 each into the kitty. And you can imagine as a new entrepreneur, we're at month 4 and I'm like, okay, dude, we're down to 50% of what we had a couple months ago. That first deal we nailed, we made $90,000 on it. About 3 weeks later, the second deal, now we were doing rehabs and we still do a lot of rehabs. Second deal we picked up, we made 125. Those first 7 deals, I'd have to go back and see how much money we made on them. I mean, it was, $500,000 maybe. And I'll tell you what we did. We didn't go out. And then at that point, we didn't go, oh yeah, we each need a new car and we need to do that. We put all our money right back into marketing. So when people say, well, how did you go from 7 houses to almost 70? I'm like, it's real simple. We put it right back into marketing because you put it back in.
You're like, I went and bought milk and cereal and then I bought more marketing.
We went and bought some top ramen.
You didn't go to Trulux or Ocean Blue and live it up there and go buy a Hummer?
Yeah, yeah. I need a diesel truck because I'm an investor now. It's like there's none of that stuff. In fact, when we first started the business, we sold everything. We sold all our car. We were like Dave Ramsey people. So my wife and I sold everything. We bought used. I had a used '99 Honda Civic. And my wife had a '99 CRV because we knew how to keep those things running. You could put 250,000 miles on them, bought them 100,000 miles on them, right? So we knew we could keep those things running, no problem. We didn't have any debt anyway, but it was literally just the house. In fact, we refinanced our house. We were able to get a lower rate. We were living like you wouldn't believe, so cheap, because we didn't know when we were going to start making money, right? We were spending money and we didn't have any revenue coming in yet. I think that's another fallacy. A lot of investors are like, well, I'll go full time when I have enough revenue to replace my current job. And it's like, no, you're not. And it is really hard to scale a business. And I'll say that, this is one thing that pisses a lot of people off. And it's something Gary says, and I completely agree. And it is, if you are doing business part-time, you have a hobby, not a business.
Yeah. I
mean, get into this full-time, get it, don't screw around. There's no reason why you can't do this full-time. Well, I understand there's certainly some financial issues, but you can figure this out. There's not any reason why you can't do it, right?
Well, and with real estate, there's so much you can do on the weekends, and so much you can do in like weird off hours. That's when people are off, and you can actually call back a potential buyer or seller. I mean, there's so much that you can do with what y'all are doing.
There is, but I'll tell you, for us, where the challenge, where you kind of bump into some problems there is like when you're trying to meet with other professionals, like marketing people and agencies, and when you're trying to set up title company interviews, and I mean, it's all that or raising money is another one. You know, most of our private money lenders are not 30, 40-year-old folks, right? Most of our lenders are in their 70s and 80s, and, you know, dinner's at 4:30. So, I mean, it's hard after hours. So, just joking for those of you in the audience there that are a little bit more senior, but you know, it's true. I mean, yeah.
I don't know if they're on the happy hour on Blab right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's dinner time. So, in any case,
you talk about Tom like that.
So you need all those other hours to be doing that other stuff. But the other way I looked at it too is I could do this part-time, let's say 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week, and learn at a certain speed. Or I could do it 80, 90 hours a week and learn even faster. So I know real quick if it worked or not.
Yeah, you're not going to make full-time money on a part-time effort ever. You're never going to do that.
Yeah.
Never. Well, if you do, it will take your learning curve so much longer to do it. You know, so much longer to do it. And what's also great too is you got to be focused. I mean, you guys are focused on one area, knocking things out and making it happen before you dive into other avenues.
Yeah, you think you're pretty focused when for 6 or 8 months you got zero revenue coming into your household. I mean, you're pretty freaking focused, right? I mean, it's like, this thing's got to work. We're going to find a way for this thing to work. And that's what, I mean, when your back's up against the wall, you get real creative.
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially entrepreneurs that haven't failed or haven't been put in that corner. They always seem to feel like they've got the out, you know, and they don't do the simple things of marketing for private money is the biggest thing. I get a lot of people that call me all the time. Oh, I got $200,000. I'm going to just use my own money. I don't want to waste my time learning about how to raise capital. I'm like, at some point you are going to, if you want to go to where you want to go, you're going to run out of capital. So you might as well either A, learn to do it now, or B, later on, you're going to miss all those good deals that you didn't have money for because you were too much of a stubborn ass.
Yeah.
You realize you don't know what you don't know.
I'll tell you what's really wrong with those people, and I don't know how you guys see it on the note side, but I'll tell you on the flipping side, we see it. They do some colossally stupid things. And here's what happened. Here's what they do. That class we're teaching, we're actually going to go into this. What they'll do is they'll go, oh, my wife is a real estate agent. We're going to use our own cash, and I'm going to manage the rehab myself. So they got 3 different jobs. And then they go, you know, I can pay a little bit more for that property because my wife's a real estate agent. I'm going to manage the rehab, and we're going to use our own money. What ends up happening is when you account for all those costs for those jobs, they didn't make any money. They just got 3 jobs. And I've had this conversation with so many people, like, why can't I grow my business? I was like, your margins are terrible because you have 3 jobs. Do you think you can go out and market to, you know, and meet with sellers while you've got 3 other jobs? I mean, you can't do it. So you've got to hire the staff. You know, you've got to raise private capital so you're not using your money because you need to keep your powder dry. You need to have that, you know, when the marketing well runs dry, you got to go somewhere, right? You got to have some capital to be able to kick into reserves. And then spending all your time managing a construction project. I mean, this is a great story. Tom, when I think they had done something like 600 rehabs in Fast Track, and he gave Fast Track, that was his remodeling company. He gave it away to his brother and the sales guy over there. So when he was in Fast Track, he would have these investors that have literally said this to him. Said, hey, I want you to take out tile from the bid. And he's like, what do you want me to take tile out? I mean, you put something else in or what? no, I want to put the tile in myself. And they'll say, what the hell do you want to do that? And he goes, well, I want to learn how to be a better investor. So I really need to learn how to lay tile. And Tom goes, I own a construction company and I don't even know how to use a hammer. I mean, it's like, I mean, what you pay a tile guy? I mean, what do you pay a tile guy? $7, $8, $9 an hour?
Not much at all.
Yeah, I mean, why don't you take that time and get off your little hiney and go over to Quest IRA and go over to Quest and raise a bunch of money? Why don't you go do that instead? I'll give you a perfect example. This is where you get guys that are too smart by half. So, and a buddy of mine, I get why they're doing it. It makes sense in their mind until you sit down and write it down. So a buddy of mine comes to me. He's the oil and gas guy. You know, oil and gas guys are getting killed here in Houston, right? So a lot of these guys have like 35, 36, 37 years in, and they're trying to make that gap until they can retire. But they have $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, and they're like, I can't buy enough rentals with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a business like yours, and then I'm going to wholesale and flip so I can get enough capital so I can buy rental properties. And I'm like, okay, so why do you need to do that? Well, rentals in our market, like wholesale deals, are selling at 80 and 85%, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it. So if you're doing traditional financing with a 30-year mortgage at 70% LTV, right? So they got to make up that gap, which is $15,000, $20,000. So this last guy I counseled, I said, your problem is not with your rentals. Your problem is not your acquisition strategy. Your problem is financing. And he goes, oh, he's like, okay, you can see, it's like these are not dumb people, right? I mean, these are smart guys. And so he says, and he goes, I get it. So I just need to change my financing. I said, yeah, here's what you need to do. You need to cut all the marketing nonsense. You need to get rid of all that. You need to now, step one is you need to be on every wholesaler's email list. If you want to build rent, I said, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to buy about 100 rentals over the next 5 years. I said, it's easy, totally doable. It's 20 houses a year. Trust me, it's nothing, right? So I said, what you need to do is you need to get on every single wholesaler's list. You need to get to every networking event. You need to talk to everybody that's selling deals, right? Step two, and we're in Houston, and Quest is in Houston. You get your little hidey hole over to Quest, and you need to start building partnerships and relationships with all those lenders. And I said, he goes, well, what if they require 70 to 75% LTV? I said, it's real simple. When someone starts saying, a private money lender says, well, I need 70% LTV, say, great. Are you going to give me the financing that I can get at a bank? They go, what do you mean? I said, are you going to give me a 30-year mortgage at 3.5%? Well, no. I mean, I want 7 or 8, 10%, whatever it is. Okay, great. I'm not going to give you the same LTV as a bank would get, right? Because a bank's got to reduce their risk like super low because the money is so cheap. Yes, sir.
That was ridiculous. That little nugget right there. Like, I don't know. We're 44 minutes in. That was an amazing piece of advice. I'm continuing to sit down with these guys
and say, like, you want this high equity position for a cash flowing asset? Great. Then you give me the other side, right? It's a price and terms game. So if you come to me on the street with a gun in your hand and say, I want all your money right now, you're getting robbed, right? You're getting price and terms. Conversely, if we're putting together a business relationship, I can give you a price. In other words, I can give you the rate you're looking for, but you got to give me some terms. And if we can't have that flexibility, like you want to pretend you're a bank, we're not going to do business together. And I think a lot of people, when they get into real estate and they're brand new, and they're like, I'm brand new, but I don't know anything. And you're like, okay, what do you do for a living? You're like, I'm an accountant for like, some big firm, or I'm
Enron.
Yeah. Or
I was.
Yeah. Or I'm a project manager that manages like $500 million projects out in the Gulf. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any experience? This is some little chicken shit house. I mean, trust me, you've got the experience to do single family real estate. So don't undersell yourself. So a lot of times what happens is investors maybe probably a better way to put it is operating partners, right? The guys that go out and find the deals and operate the assets automatically assume that they have to take the worst terms because they're new, and nothing could be further from the truth, right? So we got to have a little terms. We got to have a little terms and price game here. And trust me, there's so much money out there. You guys know there's hundreds of millions of dollars out there that is ready to be deployed. Now, I will tell you this. I'm not one of these guys that goes out and when I have a private money discussion, like I don't get into the, real estate's better than the stock market because of X, Y, and Z. I don't do any of that stuff. Scott, I think you do the same thing on raising private money, where it's like I find people that are already putting money in real estate.
Yeah,
it's a real easy sell for me, right? I just walk in and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Are you interested or not?" And they go, "Oh yeah,
well, totally." That's the beautiful thing you're talking about, going out and networking at Quest IRA, or if you're not near a Quest IRA, going to some other self-directed IRA companies events, because they usually will have them, or if not, create your own event.
Oh yeah,
invite people. That's one thing we've done just recently too. That was a home run for you guys raising capital, and Quest loved it. All the investors loved it. It was you want to talk about that or not?
Yeah, this is nuts. So me and a buddy of mine, Brant Phillips, here in Houston, I'm good buddies with Brant, known him for years. In fact, he used to teach this thing called flipping school, and I would go to it. It was a lot of fun. We both had houses like they were almost on the same street. Really fun. Anyway, so Brant and I were chatting one day, and we get some private money lenders that we meet with. I'll give you my perfect private money lender is someone who's been burned. My favorite, they're scorned, they're angry, and I don't know it when I first meet with them. I sit down and say, they go, "Hey, we have some kind of relationship, right? So we've got some, maybe they've seen stuff." Yeah. And so it's not like out of the blue, they just kind of pop up. Anyway, so we sit down and we go, "Hey, this is how we work," and we start going through kind of the details of the deal. And then they just stop and they go, you can see them, they go like this. I worked with this one investor in town, and it was a completely different thing than this, and we lost like $25,000. And I'm like, "Well, how'd you lose money? You were the debt investor, right?" Which is a totally loaded question, because I know who they worked with was an idiot, right? So so Brant and I sat down and said, we could go on social media and run these losers up the flagpole, or we could teach private money lenders how to lend. And not only teach, because I think one of the things that most people teach, they teach how to do the asset. And I would argue the asset's not the most important piece. And you guys are note guys, and y'all will totally get this, right? The borrower is like the critical piece. So we started a series called the Private Money Summit. And Quest is a sponsor, and actually our title company is a sponsor. And that's it. We don't have 100 sponsors up there. There's a reason I didn't want that many sponsors. But in any case, so I called Quest, said, "Hey, you interested?" They were like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." Quest. I mean, they're down for it. "Yeah, we'll try it once. Let's do it." So I thought, Brad and I were like, "Man, if we have 20 or 30 people at this event, it'd be pretty sweet." So we had, I think, 100 RSVP and 75 show up. So that was the first event. So 1 quarter later, we had our second event, and I got seating for 150. And we had 225 folks show up. It was standing room only. There were people out of the hallways. It was nuts. And Nathan grabs me and he goes, "There are some very high quality folks in this room." It's like, this is a really, really good group. So Quest really likes it. We're teaching. So what we're teaching is how to evaluate an asset. Like this month, which, it's in April 12th or 17th, something like that. We're teaching how to evaluate a borrower, like what you should check on a borrower, maybe credit, criminal background check, like all these sorts of things. And it's standing room only. It's a fantastic event. And as you can imagine, you might raise a little bit of money out of that. So just a little bit. So, and honestly, and we have other investors in town that show up to the event, and somebody had asked me "Hey, do you really care if other investors show up?" I'm like, "Man, I don't care." Because the reality is that there's way more money out there than there is deals. So even if we don't end up working with somebody, eventually there's just not enough volume to go around. So folks end up showing. I mean, it's a great event. It's a really great way to become an authority, an authority figure on how to do stuff and do it the right way. So yeah, it's turned out to be a really fantastic event.
So when you're bored of real estate,
yeah,
what are you doing in your free time, Jason? I see a bike in the back over there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not drinking the banquet beer and small batch breweries.
Do I lost that last part.
I said, when you're not drinking beer or banquet beer and small batch breweries, what are you doing for fun?
I'm trying to ride a lot more. I raced all the way through, starting in middle school all the way through college. So trying to get more time on the bike. That's been a big thing for me this year, is more fun stuff, because we're working too much. We need to do some more fun stuff. So training for a couple of bike rides. I got a buddy of mine. We're doing a GoRuck event. That's GORUCK. It's a really interesting deal. He's a former Army guy. So for this stuff for him is like a piece of cake. For a guy like me, it's like, this is miserable. So doing that. And like the family this year, we're trying to do more camping trips and that sort of thing. So trying to have a little bit more fun and not so much work stuff. But yeah, so that's not so bad. Now it's not like, we're bazillionaires and we can retire and goof off 80 hours a week. But yeah, you gotta have a little bit of fun every now and then.
I'm a big proponent that no matter how much money I have in the bank, I'm still going to be doing something. It's just it's my mind. It's driven to do something. On the way back this morning, I was emailing and texting people and making phone calls and setting up things. Because that's the thing, when you and I get together, or it's like me and Chase get together, or like last night we're sitting there for an hour, just bouncing ideas up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's awesome. That's the best time ever, because you're like,
yeah. But you know what I thought was so funny? It was just me and you and that buddy of mine, Andy. He's a friend of mine from college, and I'm like, and everybody left. Like, isn't that so fun? It's like, this is, if people would have just stayed that extra hour, I guarantee you we were talking about something that they would have been like, holy cow, I never even heard of doing something like that before.
Yeah, because there were some good nuggets going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, you did? Oh, that's a great idea.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah. Well, to go back to the whole retirement thing, it's like, I can't see, one of the fringe benefits of doing real estate, I've said this a couple of times, where one of the things that makes real estate fun is all the different people in it. Mm-hmm. It is a complete freak show. I mean, let's just be honest. It is there's some, but it's all about how all these different, people talk about like diversity in a workplace. I mean, this is it, right? Like, it's crazy, and it makes it a heck of a lot of fun. So if you're like in a healthcare or banking, finance, background, it's like totally boring. Everybody's all kind of suited up, and but real estate, man, it's wild.
Never a dull moment, brother. Right?
No, it is something else. So, but yeah, that makes it a lot of fun for me.
So you mentioned a second ago, or a couple months back, you're big, like Chase is and myself are big Gary Vaynerchuk fans. So, are you a big reader? Do you like reading a lot too, as well, when you get some time, or no?
I try. I've gotten really bad about that the last like 6 or 8 months. I've got a stack of books in the Kindle, virtually in the Kindle, that I hadn't really read. But yeah, I'm a reader. I've got a list of stuff that I'm like, the last book I really read that I tried reading the 4 Hour Workweek, I guess about 2 months ago. And first of all, I never read the book because I thought it was a stupid title. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Right. And then I read through, I'm like, oh, okay, there's some nuggets in here. But really my favorite last book I read was the one we talked about in the radio show, which was Popular Economics by John Tamny. Just fantastic. Easily one of my top 5 books. Fantastic. It's about economics, but it's not boring and stuffy. But that's an excellent book. So yeah, I try to read more often. It's one of the things I'm really lacking in lately.
It's all right. You have different. It's not that you don't have a million things going on and kids and stuff like that too. What's the most recent song on your iPhone or iPod that you were listening to? I always like to ask people, what are they listening to?
Oh, perfect. So I listen to a lot of stuff on YouTube because the stuff I listen to is really hard to get. So a lot of it ends up on YouTube. So last thing I was listening to, I'm a progressive trance guy, so nobody's gonna have heard of this. But
Steph's over here like going, yay!
So last one I was listening to today, because I pulled it up and I'm like, I want to listen to just that mix. It's called Hearts Connected by Kathy Burton and Omnia. So that's one of my ones I was just listening to. But then I'll flip over to like 80s. Like I've got this Led Zeppelin thing about once a week, where I switch over and listen to like the whole one of their remastered albums. So it's kind of random. When I used to work at the University of Texas, I'd drive some guys crazy because it would be like local Houston rap, and then it was like trance, and then it was like 80. They just couldn't. They walk into my office like, this is so strange, So, but anyways, that's kind of what I'm into. The trance was on today, so hopefully it'll be throwback 80s tomorrow since it's throwback Thursday, right?
Cool. Question for you. Growing up, did you have a hero or somebody that you really looked at that was your idol, that you really idolized growing up, that kind of was a big influence on where you're at today?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I think I've always – there wasn't one individual. I think until I got a little bit older. Like, I'm a big fan of Carl Icahn. I think what he's done. And I think when at the end of the day, when it all gets said and done between him and Buffett, he'll be bigger than Buffett. I mean, the stuff, like, especially he's an activist investor. I really like that, where instead of what a lot of these managers are getting away with for these companies, I mean, if they knew, it's kind of like if investors really cared and really knew what some of these people were doing in these companies, they wouldn't get away with it. And Icahn is a guy that goes in, and one of my favorite quotes is when he bought a whole ton of Netflix, and he's sitting down with can't remember the guy's name, founder of Netflix, and says something effective. Yeah, and he says, if you make me $1 billion, I won't punch you in the face. And it's like, but I mean, look, Icahn is big into, we're not playing games here. I mean, this is somebody's freaking retirement. You can't screw around. So, and Buffett is kind of tries to come off as this kind of grandfatherly figure. And I like Carl's just like hardcore, like, this is business. This is not like, this is not something to pad your resume so you can go to the next company, or you're not going to play games with this company so that you can cash out and do the next startup. So I'm a big fan of that, but I've always thought, like, the business guys, when I was a kid, I always thought they were kind of the coolest dudes, if you will.
He has a cool negotiation strategy. He likes to put negotiations past 5 p.m. on that person's timetable, and then he will sleep through the day until about 2 p.m. because he knows by that time they're exhausted from the day, and he is so fresh and ready to come and dominate them in a negotiation. So he does it as often as he possibly can.
Absolute beast. And it's guys like that just they're fun to watch. We talked about somebody today I have a lot of respect for, and I finally gotten to meet him in person. He wouldn't know me from hole in the wall, but is the guy is Frank and Dave over there at Mobile Home University. I think some of the things they're doing there, they're fantastic. I got to see Frank in one of his classes, and the guy's smart and he gets it right. And you just don't see a lot of folks that are like that. So
he had a quote. He has a quote there that you and I will agree with, but share the quote.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, when he started out, he was in the billboard business like 25 years ago, and as a young guy, built this like billboard business and then sold it. And made I assume he made a couple million, maybe $10 million on it. So he's an economist. I want to say it's Yale or Harvard or one of those. So he's a really bright guy, and he sits down and he looks at all the different asset classes he can invest in. And he figures there's only one asset class that makes any sense. And he says, the reason this asset class makes sense is because one thing America is doing better than anything else is making more poor people. And I thought, this was fantastic. Absolutely. Kind of a pessimist. So, but not really.
Yeah. Wow. That's why a lot of people are going after multifamily, though, right? Like, because there's so many more people that are going to be having
multifamily is not necessarily a great play, because one of the problems in multifamily is you have all these institutional investors. So he was looking at where's the affordable housing market and where are the big boys not playing. So he's in mobile home parks, and I can tell you, he grew from one. If you can imagine, I mean, he's a guy that went to a very high-end college. I mean, that kind of guy, right? Buying a mobile home park. So if you ever take his classes, they're hilarious when he starts telling stories. He's getting chased out of these things. I mean, he's just like nightmare stories after nightmare stories. It's hilarious. But anyway, so he says, so he bought a couple of parks, then he grew and grew and found this other partner, and they've just blown it up. They are now the largest owners in the United States. They went big. They operate in like 26, 27 states, and they're just great guys and great at business, and it's a lot of fun to watch them. So, I don't know if there was never really, when I was a kid, somebody I really idolized. It was more like those types of folks, when you meet them in real life. I was never, somebody that was like, oh my gosh, it'd be so cool to meet Michael Jordan. It's kind of like, he's cool. But I always thought those people who were, because you could see yourself being that guy, right? I mean, realistic, even as a kid, maybe I was just a little too realistic when I was like, the likelihood of me being the next Michael Jordan's pretty not going to happen. But the guy down the street that owns like a concrete company, that owns like a fleet of his own planes, and does whatever the hell he wants but still works hard, I could see being that guy, right? Like, that made sense to me. So it was more of those kind of in my life that I got to meet over time.
That's awesome, dude. That's good stuff. That's great. That's good stuff. I love it. And you're a realist just like me. Straight to the point, buddy.
Yeah, we're like really doing real estate.
Yeah. Oh, what?
Just not like teaching real estate. Oh, that's been the other thing. Like I've got this thing right now with people teaching real estate and not doing real estate. It's driving me crazy. I don't know why. It just gets me up the wall. So I'm trying to be a good boy on the radio show because I don't want to out anybody.
You're doing a good job, brother. You're doing a good job. It's funny watching people that are because we've got some mutual friends we talked about that are. Yeah. I'm like, really? You will be found out before too long because we were talking about people.
Well, after you and I chatted, I was like, really? I didn't know that. And I got back to the office when I had a couple minutes, started Googling, and then I saw like the court cases.
Oh, the one I told you about.
Yeah, I started pulling on that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. What? I mean,
should I stop recording it?
We'll talk about it tomorrow, Chase. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, straight up fraud. I mean, it's amazing.
Contempt of court and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what out there doing good business does, right? It puts you in the opportunity to help that person over that other guy, right? I mean, that's the point, right? I mean, so
and that's the
fantastic.
people thing, and that's what kind of got us into doing the note side was that we had to educate people on it because it was a different thing, and that's what you're doing with teaching investors how to be really funders, what they should be doing, breaking stuff down versus just taking everybody's word. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or hey, this is a good deal because I say it's a good deal. It's like. I mean, what do you know, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's nice too, where when you've been doing, you don't even have to do 100 deals. I mean, you do a couple of deals. It's nice to have all those references. Like I'll give you a good example. So in Sell Us Your House, we had just started Sell Us Your House. So to everybody, it looks like a brand new company. And we had a seller one time call us and say, "Hey, I got your contract. How do I know you guys are legit?" And we're like, "Because we are. I mean, that doesn't really work." So. This guy was bright enough. He just looked at the title company and called the title company up and said, "Hey, who are these guys?" And they're like one of our biggest clients. And he goes, "Oh, so it's for real, right?" And then I had some private money lenders call. They've called my attorneys before. They've called, an attorney can't lie to you. I mean, legally can't lie to you, right? So, if you ever foreclose on this guy, is there made a late payment? You heard anything? I mean, so when you start doing business, even when you only do a handful of deals, it's a huge win to be able to pull,
other professionals and vendors that will vouch for you. That's the big thing.
Well, and I'll tell you what's so cool. Like when we were doing the radio show, we heard about the spot, and the radio station said, "Hey, we got this spot. You guys have kind of been nibbling around on this thing. Do you want to take a bite and get in?" And I was like, "Heck yeah!" And then Tom and I were talking about it. And he goes, "Man, it'd be even better if we can make this at least revenue neutral." I'm like, "Okay." So I called the first 5 people that I thought would sponsor it, and we didn't even really have a price in mind. For how much their sponsorship was going to run. So every single one were like, "Yeah, we're in, send us a contract and how much you want." And I was like, "What, really?" So I'm like, oh, okay, great. So, and then it just worked out. We brought on a 6th sponsor. Now there's a line out the door, if you will, for people that want to sponsor. We like to kind of keep the sponsorships low so they get a lot of, they're huge value. That's our big thing. Like Gary, I know he talks a lot about that. We're big in like bringing a lot of value. So if we're going to bring somebody in a sponsorship, like I want to make sure they get a lot of exposure. There's not a lot of other vendors to crowd out the noise. Like you'll notice, like on our radio show, we don't have competing vendors. Like that's another big, or competing sponsors. So that's another big thing. It's like there are X, right? Like Quest is our custodian, IRA custodian, and Legacy Mortgage is our retail mortgage, and Noble Mortgage is our hard money lender. So it's that kind of thing. So driving. If you're always driving value, you probably don't have to worry about, when a paycheck's going to come in, right? I mean, you just drive that value, and it's not about. It's kind of like when the sales process, when you're going out and buying a house. One of the things I've said is if you start negotiating on price like right out of the gate, you've probably already lost the deal because they're not seeing the value, right? So it's like we're already having a price discussion. It's like, yeah, I'm not your highest bidder. Yep. That's what you're looking for. I'm not that guy. So call a real estate agent.
I had a conversation yesterday before I was heading out to Houston with a guy who called me because he's been educating and teaching people. He does real estate. He's out of San Antonio, and he wanted to pick my brain on some things because he's worked for other people and taught for some other people and done a little bit on his own. And he's like, "Well, just let me know when you get back to Austin, and I'll come up and spend the day." I'm like, no way. I'm too damn busy.
Yeah.
I said, I'm on the phone with you right now. I'll give you 5 things you need to focus on right now and what you need to change because what you're trying to sell and what you told me you wanted to don't match up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's the biggest people have this idea, but they aren't doing the things to get them to there. They're doing something else. They're doing the whole buy my shit, buy my stuff, or pay me, and like, well, what are they paying you for?
Right. Yeah. I mean, what value you really bringing? You're just selling some crap coaching program. I mean, and there's a good point there. It's like, so we're first going into this real estate education thing, and maybe we pitch this class, and we're going to talk about our mastermind group and all that stuff. But maybe people don't find value in it. They don't buy it. And that's not necessarily because we're bad or they're bad or whatever. It's just the market doesn't have any value in what we're pitching. So, then you need to go back and say, well, what works and what doesn't? What should we do differently? Or maybe we're not good real estate educators. We're just good real estate doers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So
nothing wrong with that at all.
We just got to keep doing what we're doing, right? So that's what I think ends up happening. It's kind of like the radio show. It's like if we weren't putting out value, if we don't continue to put out value, our sponsors are going to say, well, we don't want to be a part of it anymore. So, and that's fine. I mean, you got to allow that to happen. So, it's interesting on the sales. It's the sales pitch, right? Like I can't remember who said this, but we don't sell anymore. People buy. And so the idea is showing value so they can make the decision to buy. So when you look at like our sales process for Houston house buyers, most of what we do is educate the seller. And really that's just giving value, right? It's like, hey, let's show you how we came up with our offer. Like we're completely transparent. In fact, we asked them through the sales process, is it okay if we make money on this deal? Like, is that okay?
It's good.
Well, because then we know that's a good abundance mentality test. Is it okay if I make money? Yeah. Well, what's an appropriate margin I can make on this? Well, our company makes about, 20% or 15%. Is that reasonable? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, great. I mean, that's how we go through and we go, this is how we came up with the offer. I mean, you went through the numbers with us and here it is. I mean, you enter, you out, So, and when you're dealing with logical people, logic-driven people, I mean, they get it, right? Our favorite client, like we've bought so many houses from lawyers, accountants, just like high-end professional people. And it's so easy for us to sell. I love it's because it's just hey, this is what it is. Costs us to do business. And I mean, you enter, you're out. I mean, what do you want to do here? So, and really for us, it's really driving that value, educating them on how our business works, and then whether or not they want to go. And sometimes we even sit down when we aren't going to make them offer. Hey, just call a real estate agent, right? Because we're not going to be able to provide you with enough value in this transaction. We think it'd be better if you use a real estate agent. So now we're a full service brokerage now. We have a broker in house. You didn't get to meet Heather, but Heather now runs all of our sales sides, so we can list properties now and do all that stuff. But early on, we just didn't want to get into that. Actually, we've always had agents in our office, but early on, we didn't want to get into that because our agents are buying distressed properties, right? Like they're not the best people to be selling your house retail. So although we could list it from a revenue standpoint, from a value standpoint, we knew they had to go somewhere else.
Right.
And we knew that as a company. Sellers didn't know that, but hey, you're a real estate agent, why don't you list our house? We don't do that. You would be better served with a retail real estate agent, a Remax or a Redfin or whoever, but not somebody like us. So because that's not our value proposition. Our value proposition is, buying houses quick and that sort of thing. So in any case.
Cool. Good stuff. Is that me echoing in there?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Just a little
echo.
Yeah, well, we're getting right past the hour time frame. I always like to kind of wrap up because you've answered you've really provided some great nuggets today, Jason. So first and foremost, thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it.
Wife, for sure, for being around a little later for you.
Yeah.
And I always like to wrap the Hump Day Happy Hours up with a half question.
Okay.
It's not a question, it's a half question. It's a fill in the blank. It's really simple. Jason Bible is blank.
Well, I guess I'm an entrepreneur now. So maybe that's probably
There is no right or wrong answer to it. You know, we've had people say happy or content or motivated. Or Jason Bible is an entrepreneur, and that is typical. Exactly what I expect you to say after knowing you and visiting and going from there. That's it. You provide a lot of great insight. You've got a big heart, just like everybody else that's been on here. And I want to thank you. And let's thank Tom for struggling to try to get on here.
It's in that box right there. Well, I appreciate it, guys. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming down to the radio show.
Man, thanks for having me on. It was a blast. It went by really fast this morning.
It's super quick. So, but that first time I was in the studio by myself, it's like writing everything down. I'm like, whoa, this is a 12-minute segment. It's real long. And then, when you get somebody in there, it's pretty fast. So it was a heck of a lot of fun.
That's good stuff. You might need to have Chase on there talk about marketing. It'd be a great topic.
I know. I was bragging about you like last couple of days, Chase.
He totally was.
I still, to this day, I don't know anybody who does social media marketing and real estate investing better than you do. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I can make the trip down. It's not that far, right? It's just have to deal with all the traffic.
You're in San Antonio, right? Okay,
yeah.
Come on by. We do it on Fridays. Just let me know what day. Shoot me an email. We'll get you in there.
Done deal.
Good. All right. Well, hey, for everybody that joined us, man, we had quite a crowd on here today. Hope everybody's doing well. It's Wednesday. Make the most out of the rest of your week. If you've got friends or families that are abroad, take a second and make sure to hug your family too, because you're always sad to see things happen like what happened in Brussels yesterday and some of the other stuff there for you. So make sure you take advantage of what the opportunities that you have. And real estate is an amazing opportunity. You heard from Jason, you heard from Chase, you heard from everybody else that's been on these Hump Day happy hours. It's all about taking action, everybody. You got to do something. Mm-hmm. Don't settle, because the only thing you'll end up settling, the only thing you'll end up getting when you settle is regrets. Right out of Jason Bible's mouth.
Yep.
Regret. Chase, again, on behalf of Chase Thompson, thanks, buddy. Jason Bible, thank you very much. Tom Perry, we love you, brother.
We'll get you on next time.
We'll see everybody next Wednesday.
All right, thanks, guys.